Hey friends, today we're cracking open the trillion-dollar question, why Asia's economic dominance isn't unfolding like we were promised. Most analysts will tell you the Asian century is inevitable, that China's rise and India's boom guarantee a power shift. But here's the twist, the real story isn't about nations at all. I've tracked hidden patterns from 18th century trade wars to today's AI arms race. And what I've found will change how you see global economics forever. Stick around. I'll reveal 3 tectonic shifts rewriting Asia's future and what they mean for your investments. Today's deep dive continues our Hidden Patterns of Power series. Let's begin by rewinding to the origins of this Asian century narrative. For decades, the idea of Asia as the dominant global force seemed inevitable. The rapid rise of China, India's economic dynamism, and the broader development of the region painted a compelling picture of a future where global power shifted decisively from west to east. By 2020, Asia accounted for nearly half of global GDP, driven by a burgeoning middle class fueling consumption and growth. It was a golden age for globalization, which disproportionately benefited Asian economies. But this narrative rested on fragile assumptions that globalization would continue uninterrupted, that major powers would remain cooperative, and that Asia could function as a cohesive geopolitical entity. Now, a quarter into the 21st century, those assumptions are unraveling. First, let's talk about China and the ghost of Japan's lost decade. To understand China's current challenges, we need to revisit Japan in the 1980s. Back then, Japan was poised to overtake the United States as the world's largest economy. Its meteoric rise was fueled by technological innovation and export-driven growth. But it all came crashing down when US-led trade restrictions and currency manipulation forced Japan into its infamous lost decade. Growth stagnated, debt ballooned, and Japan never fully recovered its global economic momentum. Fast forward to today, and China finds itself in a similar position, but with even higher stakes. Over the past decade, China has faced increasing pressure from US-imposed tariffs, export controls on critical technologies like semiconductors, and restrictions on Chinese tech giants like Huawei. The US-China trade war has disrupted supply chains and forced multinational corporations to diversify their production bases away from China to countries like Vietnam and Mexico. In 2023 alone, US-China trade plummeted by 17% year over year. But here's where history doesn't repeat. It rhymes in unexpected ways. Unlike Japan in the 1980s, China isn't entirely dependent on US markets. Instead, it has been building parallel systems to reduce its reliance on Western-dominated financial and technological networks. Initiatives like the digital yuan and BRICS-led financial institutions are attempts to rewrite the rules of global trade and finance. However, these efforts are far from foolproof. China's slowing GDP growth, coupled with mounting debt from its Belt and Road Initiative projects, suggests that its economic model may be reaching its limits. Now let's shift gears to something even more transformative, Pax Technologica, when algorithms rule. If you think trade wars are dramatic, wait until you hear about this game changer. Historically, global dominance has been defined by military might or economic supremacy. Think Pax Romana or Pax Americana. But today, the new frontier is technology. Since 2000, Asia has contributed over half of global GDP growth. Yet here's the gut punch. 72% of AI patents still come from Silicon Valley. Take TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, the crown jewel of Asia's tech industry. Their cutting-edge 2nm chip technology is revolutionary, but here's the catch. Much of their design software is American-made. It's like building rockets with borrowed engines. Now imagine this, algorithms setting interest rates or predicting social unrest before it happens. Whoever controls these technologies becomes the new Federal Reserve of global power dynamics. This isn't science fiction, it's already happening. BlackRock's Aladdin system manages $21 trillion in assets using predictive analytics powered by AI. For Asia to maintain its momentum in this new era of Pax Technologica, it must close its innovation gap with the West. That means massive investments in research and development, not just in manufacturing, but in foundational technologies like AI, quantum computing, and biotech. But even as technology reshapes global power dynamics, there's another layer to consider: ASEAN's silent crisis, the brokerage trap. ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, has long been hailed as Asia's answer to Europe's EU, a unifying force for regional cooperation and economic integration. For 2 decades after the Cold War, ASEAN thrived as a broker for peace and prosperity through platforms like APEC and the East Asia Summit. Today, that unity is unraveling under the weight of geopolitical rivalries between major powers like the US, China, India, and Japan. ASEAN is paralyzed by internal divisions over issues ranging from Myanmar's military coup to China's belligerence in the South China Sea. Vietnam saw foreign direct investment drop by 38% in 2024 as companies opted for more stable production bases outside Southeast Asia. The problem lies in what I call the brokerage trap. ASEAN functions like a stockbroker during a market crash, powerless when clients panic because it lacks true authority or cohesion among its members. As bilateral agreements between nations like India and Japan gain traction over multilateral frameworks like ASEAN's Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCP, ASEAN risks becoming irrelevant. So what does all this mean for investors? First off, forget about simplistic narratives of East versus West or nation-state rivalries alone defining global power shifts. The real battle is between autocracies versus technocracies, between those who control physical resources versus those who control data flows. For individual investors or businesses looking to navigate these tectonic shifts, focus on adaptability and multi-localization strategies, producing locally while staying globally connected, to hedge against geopolitical fragmentation. Struggling to track these shifting alliances? Grab our free Supply Chain Resilience Scorecard. It has already helped thousands identify geopolitical risks in their portfolios. Let me summarize what we've uncovered today. The promise of an Asian century was never guaranteed. It was based on fragile assumptions about uninterrupted globalization and regional unity that no longer hold true today. From China grappling with its own version of Japan's lost decade to Pax Technologica reshaping global power dynamics through AI dominance. From ASEAN's silent crisis undermining regional stability to rising bilateralism replacing multilateral cooperation. The story of Asia's rise is far more complex than headlines suggest. But complexity breeds opportunity for those who understand it deeply. And that includes you now. Want more insights? Watch our video, How Singapore Became a Semiconductor Titan Without Anyone Knowing. Next, it dives deeper into how technology is rewriting economic rules worldwide. Smash that like button if you've learned something today. Algorithms favor engagement after all. And frankly, I need to feed my iguana. Until next time, friends, stay curious and stay diversified.